Buddy, welcome to Mark's Backyard Birds, August Wild Bird Update Edition. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. Let's see what we've got going on here. Switch things around a little bit. Looks like Steve, hi Steve, from South Alabama is in. Yep, Melanie's over here tonight. It's just she and I tonight with the broadcast. We're back home. The last live we did was from South Carolina, actually. So we're back in good graces here in Parkville, Missouri. I usually say Kansas City. I always say Kansas City, but we're literally in one of the northern suburbs of Kansas City, but we're on the Missouri side, and then the name of the is Parkville, Missouri, is the name of our community that we live in. So, Steve, I know you're in South Alabama, and let's see who we have. Jim. People, oh, I know you. You're in Ohio, aren't you? I just identified pictures for you today, didn't I, Jim? Yeah, Jim had sent a photo in today of an immature red-headed woodpecker, which is a classic bird that throws people off because they don't have red heads. Whenever they leave the nest, red-headed woodpeckers have a gray head, and it takes them several months to get a fully red head, and they're white feathers and black feathers to molt into. So yeah, they trip up a lot of people, not just you, Jim. That's a very common bird, the fledgling bird that does confuse people, especially because they show up at feeders and you see them. Let's see, Jen. Good evening from Maine. Absolutely. Welcome in from. I love that part of the world. You guys are. I wonder if you're still having smoke problems up there. I know the pretty forest fires have been pretty serious up in Canada, and been getting into some real smoky conditions there. Let's see, Alyssa checking in from New Jersey. And welcome in. I don't know how many it's so hot where you guys are, but boy, we finally we had a really pretty harsh stretch here in Kansas City, but it has been cloudy with some rain for the last 2 or 3 days, and it's been a very welcome change because we were really dry. It's good to get some rain in here. Penny from Northern Indiana, waiting for your third batch of Bluebird babies to fledge. That's cool. Yeah, that's one of the things that we're going to talk about happens in August is the different nestings for some of our favorite birds, and then some birds just do nest once and they're already on the move south. That's some things we're going to talk about. Let's see. Evelyn is checking in from Delaware. Welcome in. I always like say seeing people from all over the country. It's amazing. Let's see. Ann Reynolds from Pike Creek, Delaware. Delaware's not that big of a state, so Ann, you and Evelyn got to be fairly close together there, I would think. And Heather is checking in from Michigan. Welcome in. So we definitely have north and south and east and the Midwest, and none of our West Coast people have checked. And that's the one thing about doing these at 7 o'clock. I realize you guys on the West Coast, it's only 5 o'clock there, and so it's kind of early, unfortunately. But I know we always have a few people that check in from that part of the world. Let's see. J.D. Miller is hi from Carolyn J. Oh, in Kansas. I know where you guys are. Absolutely. And let's see. Bob McLeod, hello from northern lower Michigan. Enjoy your show. Well, thank you, Bob. Really good. You guys love it when you guys chime in. Let us know where you're from. Denise Jones, hello from Orient, Ohio. Excellent. Shipped off a couple of orders on the online store today. A nice couple of days to Ohio. So we're getting the online store we started at. We really didn't super loaded up. We just put some of our best selling things on there at the first, and it's been slow to grow, but it really has picked up. If you are looking and just to support us, it's Backyard Bird Center is the name of my store, and Shop Backyard Bird Center is the name of the online store. And so you can always check out things that we talk about on here. And I try to put links into the description after the programs are over to things that we did talk about in particular. But giving us likes, giving us shares, and giving us thumbs ups, all those things, it helps the algorithm and helps YouTube promote us, and Facebook as well. I know we got people checking in on Facebook as well as YouTube, so we will give and a couple more here, welcome ins, and then we're going to get started. Hello, Ellie Mungard. I know you. All right, right here in Kansas City. If you see her picture there, she is the purple lady. She loves the color purple. No doubt about that. And she's on Facebook. Absolutely. All right. So we have some of both on tonight. Well, welcome in. Like I said, I hope I hope it's cooler where you are. We were so enjoying this little bit of rain that we're getting, but it is the humidity is really bad, and it reminds me of Eastern North Carolina where we grew up, and it's been really humid the last couple of weeks. And one of the things that happens in August, there's a lot going on in August, as the description of the program indicated that the bird world, life goes on, and their timing as far as their life cycles are a little bit different than ours. We always, for us, we think August, we think, oh my gosh, the dog days of summer, the doldrums, it's so hot, and we're just looking forward to cooler weather, things like that. But in the bird world, this is August is an important month for a lot of species, and one of the ones that comes to mind immediately for me, I was going to talk about first, are the goldfinches. I've talked about them before. How goldfinches are literally the our latest nesting songbird. Hi, Joshua from Southwest Michigan. Yeah, we got the American goldfinches delay their nesting. They don't nest. They only start nesting until usually late July. So they are waiting for native seeds to be available for their babies. And because they're one of the very, very few birds that don't feed their babies insects. That's a cool thing. That they are able to survive those, and of course the dove and pigeon group. But the goldfinches, they wait until their bountiful supply. So this picture illustrates two things. One is, of course, the nesting season for goldfinches, and talk about that. This is a beautiful adult male, but it also illustrates that plants are starting to seed out and to head out, and that is the nature's bounty is just starting to kick in. And in the bird feeding business, and for someone who sells bird seed for a living, and we depend on that, uh, things are slowing down. We're still selling bird seed at a pretty good clip. The birds are still coming, but this is just the start of really the slower season for bird feeding at your feeders, because of this picture right here. Native seeds are becoming more and more available every day. I know in my front yard, I have a lot of purple coneflowers, and the goldfinches are out there already picking on those seed heads more than they're feeding in my backyard at my feeders. And you can't blame birds. I mean, they're going to take advantage of what natural foods available. As I always said, you wouldn't want to eat French fries every day your whole life, and so whenever the buffet line opens up, whenever all nature's seeds and berries and everything come to, and that's usually the fall when most of these come ripe and come available to birds and wildlife, they take advantage of it. It's like this goldfinch is obviously attracted to this sunflower here. So there are a lot of native plants, a lot of seeds that are just going to be coming to seed right now, and so birds are going to slow down feeding, and that's why goldfinches delay their nesting. Hi, Raj, checking in from Kansas City. And Archipelago 2, goldfinches are my favorite. Yes, absolutely. Goldfinches got votes on our poll that we did. What was that? 2 or 3 weeks ago. I guess we did the show now, and they are a favorite of many birds. Does that mean goldfinches are feeding their babies the sunflower chips they're devouring? Yes, they regurgitate. They eat a lot of native seeds, and then they're able to regurgitate mushy seeds to their babies, and their babies are required are able to survive on that and grow on that. Where most birds require the keratin that comes from the exoskeleton of insects for their bones to grow quickly. Will Goldfinches are an exception. They've evolved to just to be seed eaters, which is pretty incredible. So yes, they will feed what they'll do. They'll collect seeds, and then they'll be able to regurgitate that to their babies. So Pittsburgh is in Delaware County, Iowa. Okay, two Delawares and one Delaware County. We had two broods of Bluebird fledge, and seemingly both parents have now disappeared. The two broods were successful. Yeah, Pete, probably what's happened is the adults are looking for or have found another location to go for their third brood. And it's possible that they may only do two, but with the weather as mild as it is, we're still relatively mild for them. They may only lay two or three eggs in the third nesting, but it is possible they've already found another site, which is just smart survival instincts not to stay in one place too long. If they've nested twice in your box, they may have another cavity somewhere else, either another box or maybe a hole in a cavity. And let's see, right, goldfinches come to our sunflower regularly. Yeah, right now, I don't know if you're noticing it, but right now, it's almost all males. There are not many females at this time of year because they are on the nest, and so the goldfinch, our finch feeders, really all of a sudden, in late July, become all males, and the females are out there in the nesting process. But then we'll start to see this, and that is this is a juvenile baby goldfinch, if you will. Then an adult male feeding, passing the seeds, teaching the young, this is free food. Take advantage of this, and they start passing that food to them. And how do you tell the difference between a juvenile goldfinch and a female? And this is the time of year that here in the next 2 to 3 weeks, during early August, I'll start getting texts or emails and phone calls. People say, "I think I've got I think I have pine siskins coming to my feeder already." Well, usually not. That'd be really early. But what they're seeing are the immature, the fledgling goldfinches, because they're very green in their color, and much more so than the females, which may have some greenish tint to them, but they're mainly still yellow. And then the other way you really tell the immature, the juvenile fledgling goldfinches, of course, is these buffy eye wing bars. Instead of being nice and white, the females and the males will have nice white wing bars in them and really dark black wings. Well, the juvies are a duller black, and they usually have a real buff color to their. And of course, them begging for food is a really good indication that they're a baby, mom and dad to feed them. And so this scene plays out, in August is when we usually see this, and then bang, they disappear. And boy, and it's like you talk about it when the phone starts to ring. Where did my goldfinches go? Where did my goldfinches go? And this leads a lot of people to believe that goldfinches migrate. And in our area, the goldfinches that migrate here are the ones that migrate in for the winter. Now, you guys up north, you got your goldfinches may leave before the harshness of winter sets in, and a lot of them come down to this area. I've said this before, that in the winter months, I have 100 goldfinches in my backyard. I have 5, 6, 7 goldfinch feeders or finch feeders going all winter long, and we get a tremendous number of goldfinches, and especially starting early December. So what happens between now and December? And that is that first picture. This is what's happening. Your nature's bounty kicks in, and so the goldfinches disappear. And what they're doing is they're going out into the field edges and the weed edges, where there are all that weed seeds available to them, and they're eating on that natural seed. And everybody's, "Oh, well, the goldfinches are gone." And some people literally take their finch feeders down and leave them down, and they don't think the goldfinches return until the spring, whenever they see these bright yellow males. Well, we know that they molt. They Goldfinches are another unique bird in that they do 2 complete molts a year. Molting means changing feathers. Some birds only molt certain parts of their body a couple times, at certain times of the year. Some birds do 1 complete molt a year, and then the goldfinch does 2 complete molts. So it will change completely in the fall from this bright yellow and black to to look more like the females. They that duller, more olive color in winter, which is a much better camouflage color. But there are people that, like I said, that confuses a lot of people because they think, oh my gosh, that this is a completely different bird. Well, I think you can see in this male goldfinch here in this picture that he's already starting the molting process. You can see how the black cap is not as brilliant, and it's starting to show through some of the fall color in there. And so, yeah, the black and the head almost totally goes away in the winter months during that winter with the molt there, they won't start their spring mold again until March or April. And so, again, I get a lot of questions saying, "What is it? Send me pictures, and what is this bird?" And it'll be a picture of a winter plumage goldfinch. So they don't leave, but they just go out and they feed. And depending upon the amount of natural food available to them in the fall, is how long they're technically gone from your bird feeders. So we always say that in here our area, really the goldfinch season for at feeders is December through July through June. That is really when you see goldfinches at your feeders regularly. Now they're really busy all winter, and then in the spring the numbers thin, but they're still here. Those are the resident populations that nest here. Oh, here's one of my West Coast people. Hi, Denise, coming checking in from Washington State. Absolutely. And let's see, Ann Reynolds. We had 2 successful bluebird broods, 5 each. A pair laid 4. Not sure if it's the same pair. I'm guessing not. Always they had 4 eggs by July 8th, but this they never hatched. So bad. Still goes in. Yeah, the it's when it comes to why birds abandon nests, why especially and bluebirds, why they lay 4 eggs versus 5 eggs, and all that. Those are difficult questions, but you can bet that it's based more on what the adults that are late in the nesting process feel like they can raise. So we know that by providing a source of live mealworms for them, and even dried mealworms will give birds a confidence to lay more eggs because they tend to be able to feed them more regularly if you're real dependent with those, real regular with this. But hot, dry weather, when insects are harder to find because of drought and things like that, they tend to lay less eggs. So there are a lot of factors that filter into that. And I get asked a lot, well, why did the bluebirds, abandon my nest? Well, again, that's again a really, really hard question to answer because during the the nesting process, anything can scare them off. They may see a cat roaming the yard and they think, oh no, my babies aren't going to be safe. I'm going to move. And they go find a nest. Or Cooper's hawk buzzes them when they're setting up the nest process. So there's a lot of things that can happen that will influence the number of eggs laid, and also whether they give it up altogether. And 4 July 8th, but they never hatch. So sad. Yeah, and you're going to want to clean out those eggs. If they did not hatch, go ahead and clean it all out, the nesting material and the eggs, so you'll build another nest in there. And you may come out there one day and have, if you don't do that, and you'll have nesting material on top of the old eggs. She'll just build a whole new the nest on top of those. So, all right, checking in. Adrian Lee from Toronto, Ontario. Welcome in. All right, and here goes Barefoot Monk. Goldfinches seem to have happy to as they play around the sky. Yeah, they do, and they're one of the things I in my learned these first 10 songs. The program I did 3 or 4 weeks ago now. I didn't include goldfinches in that because goldfinches, they make a lot of finch sounds, as we say. The most famous of which is their flight call. When they're flying, they like to call it, and they say the mnemonic we use is potato chip, potato chip, potato chip. That's what they sound like when they're flying. But they're not. They confuse people, so I didn't include that into my top 10, first 10 to learn. So they are great birds, though. Just hello from Georgia. Thank you for joining in. Absolutely, I'm glad to do it. Thank you. Like I said, thank you all for all your support and tuning in. So. Bluebirds, it's my transition from the goldfinches to the bluebirds. Thanks. That was a real good question to ask right then to get into this transition for them because they are in different stages. Some are already fledging their third. Is What comment was? They're already fledging their third brood. Some are just fledging their second brood. So you guys that are already getting through your third brood, it's almost assured you'll have a fourth nest this spring or this summer. Well, and that can happen depending on how early they start. They're gonna nest as many times as they can because they want to put as many babies out there in the environment so ensure that they will survive. At least some of those will survive. And the truth of the matter is, a lot of babies don't survive. As we say, we've talked about bird age before. People ask quite often about the age of how long birds can live. Most birds die within their first year. And that is, again, it takes time for them to learn those life skills to survive. And so they fly into things, they get caught by predators, they don't know to be elusive. And so that's why in nature, it's a harsh world out there, and that's why different animals have so different numbers of babies, have lots of different babies, because they to ensure that at least some of them survive. They have different nesting strategies, and but these bluebirds are good parents. They take care of them for a couple of weeks after they leave the box, but after that they're on their own, and they've got to try to start nesting again. So different bluebird landlords are in different situations right now with the number of babies and the number of eggs they've had this spring, number of babies that have hatched. But it's impressive. You guys are very, very dedicated, and I admire you. I haven't had any luck in my box this year. I've heard them singing in the neighborhood, so they're finding somewhere to nest, but they're just not using my box. So, all right, let's see. Check in here. Straightforward. Hi, checking in from Ohio. Absolutely. You are so welcome. Thanks for joining in. Serpentina from New Jersey. Welcome in. It's always a giggle. Yeah, one of the best laughing birds, the goldfinches with their potato chip call. So, you guys are. I love the comments. I really, really do. Okay, so bluebirds. We're going to move on to hummingbirds. What's going on with the hummingbird world? And oops, you guys locally are looking at that one going, whoa, wait a minute. And of course, you guys out west are saying, yeah, Mark's now going to talk about one of our birds. That's right. This is a rufous hummingbird. And they are pretty common in the Rocky Mountain areas in the West Coast, especially in migration. They are a beautiful orange rufous color. And I love David Allen Sibley in his field guide says that their gorget, the throat, is about the color of a freshly coined penny, or the bird is the color of a freshly coined penny, which is it's very descriptive. And this is an adult male. And one of the things we don't, ruby throats, which we talk about every month, our ruby throats are just starting to fledge. The babies are just now leaving the nest, and so you guys in the whole eastern 2/3, that ruby throats. This is the best month. I did a program just recently on why August is the best month for seeing and feeding hummingbirds here in this part of the world, and that's because the babies are fledging, the territories are breaking down, and then by mid uh, late August maybe. We'll start getting migrants. We'll start getting you guys birds from Iowa and Minnesota and points north, and so August is the month for hummingbirds. If you're a Midwesterner here, maybe it's a little already going on out east for you guys that are living out east can tell us whether your hummingbird activity is really, really picked up. But the reason I put the picture of the rufous in here tonight is because this is when we here in the Midwest, and especially Kansas City region, have our best chance of seeing rufous hummingbirds. And that is, bird banding and a lot of these modern research techniques that we're able to use now and the internet, people reporting and things. We have learned so much. And for the most part, rufous hummingbirds nest in the upper Rockies, higher elevation birds. And then when they migrate straight south and they go down to Mexico. Well, we've learned that there is a segment of rufous population, of rufous hummingbirds, that actually migrate at about 45 from those high mountain areas of Wyoming and Montana and Colorado that actually angled and go winter down on the southeast coast. So down in South Carolina, North Carolina, Florida. You guys, there's winter more and more rufous hummingbird sightings and those and overwintering down there because we got the internet. People are reporting them, sending pictures, things like that. And if you draw a pretty good straight line from that winter population to the upper Rocky Mountains, it comes through Kansas City. So we see this is when I'll get reports and pictures sent to me saying, "Wow, what's this pretty hummingbird?" It's just in our feeder, and they usually come through here the first week of August, maybe through the first half of August, and they really do stand out when you compare it to all the other ruby throats that are out there, and they're just absolutely beautiful sights. And but they don't usually stick around very long. Now, a couple of years ago, it's been several years ago now, we had one customer who had one it stuck around until Thanksgiving Day. So that roof has stayed around quite a while. They told me that it left on Thanksgiving Day that year, but it was feeding at his bird feeder, any hummingbird after mid to late September, even early October, it's less common. And if it's something that stays around past that, wow, it's usually an uncommon hummingbird here in this area. So the rufous hummingbird is something really should be on the lookout here in the next week or more here. And if you're local here and you guys in the southeast, always keep an eye on them all throughout the winter to keep your hummingbird feeders up. Oh, Jen G says we have some phoebes flying around chasing insects this evening. They were very active. Yes. Phoebes are excellent flycatchers, a good bird to have, and they do nest. I've had them nest on windowsills. I love Phoebes. They're just a great flycatcher for sure. Alyssa, our yard has been very busy with baby birds. We had multiple bluebird families, eastern kingbird babies, parent kill. Yep, absolutely. That's what August is all about. When we start our bird watching hikes, which we do September and October, it's always a challenge because a lot of those baby birds don't look as good like the adults, and so we're identifying juvenile birds, and which is a little trickier than identifying adult birds. And this is a very active time for those guys. The parents are still hanging with them and they're traveling in family groups. All right. Raj, where can I see Rufus? Raj, you just have to wait for one to be reported because there's no way to predict them. This picture here came from a customer who lives over in Liberty. Had this one a few years ago, and so we had that one down in Blue Springs. That was several years back. St. Joe, I know, had one I think last year. They can turn up anywhere, and the more people that are looking for them, the more people are keeping their hummingbird feeders clean and keeping them fresh and attracting those hummingbirds. You have a chance to see one, and we're always saying, please report them, please tell us. And we try to let people know, and if people are willing to let you come over to their yard to see them, some people are, and some of them only stick around for a few hours, and that's frustrating. But sometimes that's how that is, and they keep moving on. So just keep your ears tuned to mow birds and places like that may be reporting them. All right, straightforward. We've had a few hummers, mostly at our hibiscus. Yep, they're ignoring our feeders. I think, yeah. Frost that came in after the azalea bloom, and that somebody posted on one of my videos this week saying, "Don't put out hummingbird feeders; just plant flowers. It's better for them." Well, yeah. Again, it's that analogy of you got the buffet versus the same thing every day. Birds only get about 15% of their daily diet from bird feeders. That includes hummingbirds. They're out there feeding from flowers all the time. They're eating insects and they're eating from your hummingbird feeders. And so it's misleading to say that kind of thing. And especially for people who can't plant a lot of wildflowers. People live in apartments and some people are not able to physically, maintain flower beds and things like that. So hummingbird feeders provide just a wonderful educational and entertaining source. And so I don't, to say that, I don't think is very responsible. So, all right. Yeah, hummingbirds also love our honeysuckle. They love tubular flowers, and honeysuckle is especially creeping honeysuckle. Some of those, Virginia creeper, trumpet creeper, the orange tubular flowers. They love them. Remember hummingbirds favor red and orange flowers because we know that bees don't feed on them as much. So yeah, absolutely. Steve from South Alabama, since I didn't see David from Rhode Island. Oh yeah, you're right. Steve, thank you. Thanks, Steve. Yeah, I have. David must not be on tonight because he does tend to remind people to hit that like button and the heart button and the thumbs up. Absolutely. Thank you for reminding people, Steve. Absolutely. Hi, Gary. Gary's Kansas City local. I'm seeing a lot of male redbirds feeding their females this year. Yeah, that's a little flirtatious behavior there. That's the courtship thing. And yes, they will have multiple nests per season, at least two, and sometimes three. They're again a reward for being a resident, being willing to stick out the winters here, and you get started early and have some extra time. All right, one of our friends spotted in St. Joe a couple. You spotted a rufus in St. Joe a couple weeks ago, Raj. Is that what you're saying? That's a really good sighting, and it again, that's the great thing about social media, the internet, that people can let people know about that quickly, and a lot of access, a lot more access than there used to be. All right. Serpentina, we had a big hummingbird pollinator garden, but the nectar feeder really helps in between different flowers. That's coming in and out bloom. That's exactly right. Yeah, they do. It's a supplement. It's the hummingbird feeders and bird feeders as a whole. It's a big misconception. People think that that birds just that's all they eat is the bird seed at your bird feeders or the nectar at your hummingbird feeders. No, 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 no. Many studies have been done, and like I said, it's pretty much proven that birds only get about 15% of their daily diet. They have to eat insects. They have to eat other seeds. They have to eat berries when they're available. Like the diversity of diet and nutrition is so important. So your hummingbird feeder is a supplement. It is not the mainstay of that hummingbird, even though they chase each other. And it's a dependable source, which is really important to them, like she points out, because flowers, die out and the next ones bloom and things like that. So yeah, really, really important. Uh, Hanging baskets too. Don't forget that. Absolutely. And the urban settings, hanging baskets can be really great for hummingbirds. We love fuchsia hanging baskets. We use those a lot early when we were married and had favorable kind of shady conditions for fuchsia plants. The hummingbirds absolutely loves it. They had some beautiful hanging fuchsia plants. So Ross says yes. That was in St. Joe a couple weeks ago, or Rufus. That is great. That again in Kansas City region, Rufus is a really good hummingbird, no doubt about it. We have a hummingbird feeder at about every 15 minutes. There are not many natural flowers around here. That and again, that's a good point because in drought years, wildflowers don't do as well, and so hummingbird feeders get a lot more activity. In really wet years, when there's wildflowers are blooming like crazy, then the hummingbirds have more to choose from. Your hummingbird feeder might not be nearly as busy, but a good flower bed that you plant with native, especially native wildflowers that are tier blooming. Ones that bloom in spring, ones that bloom in early summer, bloom in fall. That's a great way to take care of hummingbirds and ensure that they stick around. All right, Steve, a friend swears he has seen Rufus at Lake Eufaula, Alabama during the winter of Arbor County and Georgia line. Absolutely, Steve. There are more Rufus now. Again, with the internet and people taking pictures and posting them and asking, what's this bird? What's that bird? We're learning there are more Rufus hummingbirds wintering in the southeast than we've ever known, and it's great. That information is so useful for biologists and Christmas bird counts. They record them down there in the southeast, and at first we just thought it was Florida. We just thought it was the coast of Florida, and now we know kind of all over the southeast these Rufus sightings are coming in. All right, Denise says I watch my hummingbirds drop from my feeder to hit the fuchsia below in my garden. Absolutely, and Denise is one who loves Rufus hummingbirds, one of her favorite birds, and then so I know she's enjoying this that we're talking about the Rufus. Absolutely, absolutely. Hey, David, you're in now. Don't forget to hit the like button. Hey, Steve, there he is. He's in. Steve commented earlier that you weren't on, so he was going to steal your thunder and remind people to hit that like button. Thank you so much. Absolutely, guys. It does help promote the channel without a doubt. Well, whenever I do these, one of my favorite things I do when talk about our backyard birds and kind of what's going on, but I always like to make sure I throw in a bird that doesn't come to bird feeders and to help encourage you to get out and look for these birds. And if you do see them, they're not usually super common. And the one I chose to do tonight because of the time of year is the yellow-billed cuckoo. Yes, we do have cuckoos in North America. We have three different species. Two, really, this is the most common and widespread is the yellow-billed cuckoo, but we also have the black-billed cuckoo, and then down in the mangrove swamps in the very southeast, we have the mangrove cuckoo. But the cuckoo is they're not closely related to the old world cuckoos, where the cuckoo clocks came from. In Europe and Asia, the cuckoos over there are actually brood parasites. They dump their eggs in other birds' nests, where our cuckoos don't do that. But these cuckoos are fascinating birds, and this is a great time to see them, as in going into the fall in the later season, because of course their babies are coming out and they're a little more. And once the leaves start to fall off the trees, they become a little easier to see because they're pretty secretive. They kind of skulk around up in the trees, but you have to look for cuckoos. I mean, they're amazing birds, and we love them. But one of the coolest facts about them, there's two things I wanted to talk about them. The what we call tent caterpillars, and or web worms. You see that big white web all over a tree or a part of a big limb or whatever. You see that in the fall, and people are like, oh, it's so unsightly and everything. Well, those caterpillars that make those have a lot of hair on them. They're very hairy, fuzzy caterpillars, and most birds won't eat them. Well, the yellow-billed cuckoo has evolved with them and eats them. And what they do is they grab those caterpillars and they roll them to squish down the hairs to flatten them, and then they swallow them, which is a really cool adaptation. Where a lot of birds won't go to that trouble, they won't eat them, so they're missing out on the nutrition. So the yellow-billed cuckoo, and the other one thing I want to mention about them, and then we'll get back to questions here, is their babies. This is a juvenile, and I don't know if you can tell, but you can hardly see its tail. And these birds grow so fast, and their tail feathers grow so fast that in research you have literature that says you can almost see the tail grow. That's how fast they grow once these babies leave the nest. So they have long tails. That's the rudder, for them steering and flying. But the yellow-billed cuckoo, fascinating species. See if you can find them in your yard or on a nature center hike near you. They're fascinating birds. And I remember on a bird watching hike one time, I saw one catch a Luna moth. And if you know, Luna moths are the big green moths that very wide wings. And I watched this cuckoo catch one, and he was looking at me, and he had the moth by the body, and the wings were sticking out of both sides of his bill, and looking at him right at you. It just looked really cool. The wings of the moth sticking out on both sides of him, and he let it go, and it flew, and he flew down, and he caught it again. He was kind of playing cat and mouse with it, so pretty cool. All right, sorry, back to questions. So the yellow-billed cuckoo. Let's see, Jim, thanks for taking your time to identify the photos I emailed you. Absolutely. Got to run, but thank you for tuning in tonight. Thank you so much. All right. And that's Straight Forest I guess you're in Garrettville here. There, you guys might be neighbors up that way. Yeah, Raj. The cuckoos can be difficult to photograph. They're pretty secretive. I've got some good ones that have been sent to me over the years, and the fall's definitely the best time to take pictures of them, for sure. Hey, Dave, thanking Steve for getting on late tonight. Yep, raising three grandsons. You are a busy man, and I really appreciate you checking in on it, being so active with us. Great minds think alike. Absolutely. Steve, taking Dave. Absolutely. Is there still time? Is there a good way to identify a baby song sparrow? The adults are eating up a whole lot of seed. Yeah. As a rule, when it comes to baby birds, young birds, especially when they first fledge, they look disheveled. If that's a good word. Usually you can see the downs kind of poking through from place to place, and usually, as a rule, they're darker than adults. That first set of feathers, they want to be a little more camouflage. So they a lot of times the colors are muted, and so they're not as brightly colored as the adult song sparrows are, and any other birds like that. And sometimes the bill color is darker as well. So yeah, and then when they molt and they start to age, then the bill color changes, and they'll start getting in the adult feathers. So, and of course, it's always a good indication if you've got an adult passing at seed. That's a really good indication it's a young one. But juvenile birds can be really difficult. But for the most part, like I say, usually kind of they just look ragged, and again, usually darker than adults. Absolutely, it's a good observation. So. Well, those are the guys I wanted to cover tonight. What's going on in August? I always talk about water, guys, especially with this hot season right now. Providing a clean source of water is so important, and I know I'm broken record on this topic because I feel so strongly about it. So make sure you're keeping your water fresh, and if you can keep it moving, that's a good thing. I just did an overhaul of my 4-tier fountain that I have in my backyard this morning. Got a new pump. My pump had burned out, so I had to get that fixed. So the water is critical, and I do all that when we get some rain, which is kind of funny because we haven't had rain in quite a while. So, but yeah, definitely address the water and keep that hummingbird nectar fresh. No more than a couple of days right now. Even and if you change it every day, that's no sin either. Believe me. It's again, you're making clear Kool-Aid and you're putting it out there in the heat, and you know how well that would taste if you and I wanted to drink it. So, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Fluffy is a good way to describe a juvenile bird. Straightforward. Yeah, that's kind of what they look like. We always say the teenage years. There's don't bother combing their hair and that kind of stuff. So yeah, juvenile birds, and they be on the look for them because. This is whenever the chickadee families are coming in. That's when the downies families are coming in, the cardinal families, and that the cardinal babies have black bills instead of orange bills, or they're only 50-50 to be part black and part orange, those juveniles. So there's different ways, for juvenile birds that will jump out at you. All right, we got a question from Melissa about the honest, or do you ship seed as well as feeders and such? I do ship seed. We don't ship 50-pound bags. We have tried that. That is, for us, it's not efficient. But 20-pound bags and smaller, we do ship. So yeah, that's there. That's all on the online store, and we can ship those all over the country, just within the continental U.S. We don't ship outside the continental U.S. So all right, you are welcome. Straightforward. Thanks for joining in tonight. Absolutely, Steve. Thank you so much. Melanie, thank you. She's over there. She didn't have much to do tonight. She didn't working. She's been really working, doing some other work over there too. So you guys are great. Thank you all so much. If I didn't get to a question, if I missed you, absolutely, I'm sorry. And we will be back on in a couple of weeks. Denise, thank you for joining in. Absolutely. And we will be posting videos right now and then. So if you haven't subscribed already, please do that. Obviously, hit that like, hit that share. All that helps us out. And we really appreciate y'all joining in and supporting us as always. Serpentine. I thank you. You are certainly welcome, guys. You guys have a good night, and we will talk to you soon.